Jai Hind children. Today we'll begin a new lesson and it's chapter 2, The Tiny Wonders of the World, Ants. So this chapter it tells us about ants, the different types of ants and their different qualities. Alright, so let's begin. Watching ants is a good fun. There are many kinds of ants. At least 80,000 different types are found all over the world. Ants are common in almost every country. Just as people of different countries differ in their living, ants do differ from one another. They are divided into nations and declare war upon each other as people do. Okay, so like if you pay attention, you'll really find it interesting watching ants, okay, as there are many kinds of ants. 80,000 different types are found all over the world. Alright, and just as people of different countries, they differ from one another, isn't it, in their living, in their speaking. So similarly, even the ants, they differ from one another, okay, just like people, just like humans, even they are divided into different nations and they also declare war upon each other. As industrious as an ant is a common comparison for a person who is very hardworking. Okay, so the word industrious, it means hardworking, okay, and ants are very much known for their hardworking nature. So that's why a person whoever works hard is compared to an ant. Ants make their homes from earth, stones, wood, paper or leaves. So what do ants use to make their homes? Earth, like soil, alright, soil, stones, papers, leaves, wood, okay, these are the materials they make use of to make their homes. They have many ways of getting their food. Here is an interesting study of a few kinds of ants. So now we'll be talking about the different kinds of ants in this chapter. Hunter ants get their name as they hunt other insects and capture them. Shepherd ants care for little bugs called cowbugs. These bugs are usually found on rose leaves and leaves of beans. Okay, so the first kind of ant that we talk about is the hunter ants. Okay, so hunter ants, they get their name as they hunt on other insects, they capture them, so that's why they have been named hunter ants. And the next is shepherd ants. Why? Because shepherd, the word shepherd means to take care, to look after something, isn't it? So shepherd ants, what do? They take care of the little bugs, the bugs which are known as cow bugs, okay, and these bugs, they are found on basically on rose leaves and leaves of beans, so that's why these ants are called shepherd ants. Now let's see how they work. We get milk from goats and cows, don't we? Similarly, these shepherd ants get milk from these cow bugs. Okay, so just like we humans, we get milk from goats and cows. So similarly, even these ants, they get milk from these cow bugs. The shepherd ants carry these bugs to their nests and keep them there. They feed them and protect them from enemies. When they want to milk them, they press the sides of these bugs and the bugs give out a sweet honey-like liquid. The ants love to eat this. Okay, so just like people, when we require milk, the milkman, he goes and gets the milk from his cows, isn't it? So similarly, the ants, these shepherd ants, they take care, they protect these cow bugs, okay, and then whenever they want to get the milk, they press the sides of these bugs, okay, and a sweet honey like liquid, it comes out, which these ants, they love to eat. But you'll be surprised to know that this food is not for one ant alone. Okay, an ant has two stomachs in its body, private and public, one for itself and one for carrying food home. Okay, so now next interesting thing that we get to know here is that ants, they have two stomachs in their body. Okay, one is a private stomach and one is a public stomach. So the word private as we know it, it is for one's personal use, isn't it? So private stomach is for themselves, whatever they eat, and public is like a bag, like a carry bag, so they carry food for home. The public stomach is bigger than the private stomach. When one ant wants food from another, it gently taps on the other's head with its feelers. They use, okay, now feelers, now what is feelers? You can see out here in this picture, you can see I have written feelers there with a pencil and I have circled that part on the head of that ant. So these two antenna kind of things, these two long things you can see, that is called a feeler. So what do ants do? They gently tap on the other's head with its feelers. Okay, so why do they do this? Because they use their own telegraph code. Telegraph code means their own way of communication, talking to each other. Okay, so that's how they communicate to each other. They talk a great deal in this manner. So this is how they talk to one another, by tapping on each other's head with their feelers. Farmers who grow grains and vegetables for us. Likewise, there are farmer ants who grow their own vegetables. Okay, now we will talk about the farmer ants. They even have farmers. They are also called umbrella ants. So these farmer ants, they are also known as umbrella ants. Let's see why. It is because they carry large pieces of leaves over their heads like umbrellas. Okay, so as you can see in the picture as well, these ants, they are carrying huge leaves over their heads, isn't it? Which looks like an umbrella. They take these pieces to their nests and chew them up nicely. Afterwards, they make a bed of the chewed up leaves. Okay, so they chew up these leaves, okay, and then they make a bed out of it. A kind of fungus grows on these bed, which serves as a food for ants. Then there are, okay, so why do they chew up and make a bed out of it? Because later on what happens? A kind of fungus grows on it, okay, which serves them as a food. Then there are thief ants which steal food stored by other insects. Okay, so as the name itself, it defines, isn't it? Thief ants. So ants that steal food stored by other insects. A lot of ants are called an army of ants. So that means a group of ants. They are called an army of ants, isn't it? You've studied this in your English grammar as well. It is because they are disciplined like soldiers. Okay, so see, now the next quality is that first quality that we got to know was that ants are very industrious, they are very hardworking, and now next is that they are disciplined like soldiers. So ants are disciplined like soldiers. There are military ants or the Amazon ants who march in long lines. They are wandering tribes and are always on the march. They make war on every living creature in their path and kill them. Even the big animals like the elephants are afraid of them. Okay, so now these military or the Amazon ants, what do? They are like wandering tribes. Okay, so they are always on the march. They do not stop. And then they make war. That means they fight against every living creature that comes in between their path. Okay, and then it kills them. They kill them. Even the big animals like elephants, they are very much afraid of these ants. Okay, when a battalion of military ants enter a house, people run away into the forest. They stay there until these ants have passed. When they return, they find that every insect and spider in the house has been cleared away. Okay, so when a battalion of these military ants, when it enters a person's house, what happens? It becomes very difficult for that person to live in that house. They have to literally leave until these ants, they have gone away. All right, and then when the people return, they can find that, they come and see that all the insects and the spiders of that house has been cleared away. That means these ants have already killed and taken them away with them. Ants live under big rocks or stones in the fields. Some ant hills can be 5 to 6 inches high. So ants, they live under big rocks or stones. Okay, but then some, they even built a ant hill, isn't it? That means their home, which can go up to 5 to 6 inches high. This colony of ants has a queen whose only job is to lay eggs. So now see, ants, they even have a queen. How wonderful, isn't it? They have a queen, and her only job is to lay eggs. That means she does not do anything else. She only sits and lays eggs. But who keeps the queen clean, and who takes care of the eggs and the baby ants? That is the job of nurse ants. They keep the queen clean, washing her with their tongues. Okay, so they take the eggs as they are laid and tend them in warm and dry cells. Okay, when the babies hatch, they can take care of them. All right, so who takes care of this queen? Okay, those are the nurse ants. All right, the nurse ants, what do? their job is to keep the queen clean. Okay, they wash her using their tongues, and then they also look after the eggs, okay, and keep them warm and dry, so that when the babies hatch, and yes, even after the babies are out of the eggs, they still look after those baby ants. Okay, so this job belongs to whom? It belongs to the nurse ants. The queen never goes out to find food. Worker ants do the job of bringing her food from the outside world, and all her people love her. As the eggs hatch, the colony is full of happy, strong, and hard-working ants. Okay, so the queen, she never goes out even to look for food. Okay, who does this? Worker ants. All right, it's their job to go search and bring the food from the outside world to the queen and for the other ants in the anthill. So as the eggs hatch, so after the baby ants, they come out of their eggs, what happens? The colony of the ants, it is full of happiness. Okay, and the ants are much more hardworking. If you notice an ant hurrying somewhere, do not disturb it. It might be a worker, a shepherd, or a farmer ant. So that's why, as after you've heard the story, okay, now after reading all the story, so now onwards, if you ever notice an ant, okay, as they are hurrying somewhere, do not disturb it. So this chapter, it's suggesting us that we should not disturb those ants. Why? Because it might be a worker ant or a shepherd ant or a farmer ant, and they all have their own specific jobs, isn't it? So if you interrupt, what will happen? They will get disturbed, they'll be distracted. Surely we can learn a lot from ants. Okay, yes, and it's obvious that we have learned so many good qualities of the ants, isn't it? That they are very industrious, very hardworking, they are very disciplined. And we also saw that the different types of ants, all the different types of ants, they have been doing their own jobs very in a very good manner, isn't it? So with this, we've come to the end of this chapter. I hope you've understood the story so far. And here, as you can see in this picture, I've given you the word meanings. Alright, fill in the blanks and short answer questions. If you wish, you can take a screenshot of this page, and then here you have your long question answers. Okay, these are your long answer questions, and below you have your match the following columns. So all these are from the chapter itself, so you have to write these in your exercise books, okay, in your English reader copies. So children, okay, fill in the blanks. You need not do in your exercise book, you can leave it in the book itself. All right, fill in the blanks, you will do in your books, and match the columns also, you have to do it in your books itself. No need to do it in your exercise book. Okay, so we'll stop here today.